Guys, thanks for being here. We got it situated. And today, as you see in the title, we're talking about a 24-hour rideshare strike that happened yesterday up north in Los Angeles, California, down here in San Diego, and other markets across the country. And we're going to talk about if this was effective. If you don't know, there was a similar strike just last month. That was also an apps off strike, it's called. You go offline, you don't take any rideshare rides. And that took place in front of a Uber Greenlight Hub center. Well, this time, the focus of the protest was at LAX, Los Angeles International Airport, as well as airports, again, here in San Diego and other places. And I'm really curious if you think that the narrative was received, if you think that there's going to be benefits stemming from this most recent protest, and if you think it was a win for drivers. Do you think this was a win for drivers? And if you guys don't know, this is on the heels of Uber going public as a company. Just today, let me pull it up here for you guys. And firstly, I appreciate you being here. Let me know where you're watching from. I see you guys here in the live chat. Lisa, thanks for being here. Running Attic, Casey, thanks guys for being here. So if you didn't know, let me show you. Uber, in fact, went live as a company today. They just went live. Here is their current stock price, $41.57. They were going to value their stock anywhere from $44 to around $50 and ultimately settled on $45. Why is that important? Well, you may recall that when Lyft went live, they launched around $75, $75, $78. So a marked difference there. But today, I want to go over the reason why we're having this live stream today. It's because of this. It's because of this strike organized by Rideshare Drivers United. This is their website. You can follow along. drivers-united.org. And you can see here we're Uber and Lyft drivers uniting for a fair, dignified, and sustainable rideshare industry. And we can see here at the bottom, this organization is asking for a driver's bill of rights. Number 1, fair pay. Number 2, transparency. Number 3, a voice for the community. And number 4, community standards for the community at large. Zachary, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. If you guys are interested in more info or joining the Alliance, you can go to drivers-united.org. So let me know, firstly, did you participate? Did you participate either actively or semi-actively? Meaning, did you go to the protest destinations, the airports in the participating markets, or did you at least participate by going offline? This was from midnight, May 8th until midnight, May 9th. And again, the messaging around this was the Driver Bill of Rights, and moreover, to control the narrative over this ride-sharing industry. So I want to show you something. The question here today, do you think that this strike was effective? I found this today. I was just doing some research before this live stream, and I saw this really interesting opinion article from the New York Times. Look at this title. Strike all you want, Uber won't pay a living wage. That's tough. Strike all you want, Uber won't pay a living wage. Wow. The choice is between underpaying drivers and replacing them with robots. I'm going to show you a few articles here today. Let me know in the live chat, or hey guys, if you're watching this in the rebroadcast, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. A, do you think this was a success? B, again, did you participate or did you go offline? And C, is this a win? Is this a win for protesters, for drivers? Running Attic, thanks for being here again. I did not participate since I only Uber on weekends. This is a fascinating discussion around this, guys. I'm going to go into a little bit more about your answers in the live chat and in the comments here. Lisa says, I participated for 24 hours. I stayed home and came down with a dreadful cold. I'm sorry to hear that last part there, Lisa. Zachary says, I don't do rideshare much anyways. So if we focus our attention here on this opinion article, again from the New York Times, in essence, and we can see here the picture caption is telling us Uber protesters marching in San Francisco on Wednesday. Again, guys, this just happened. I found this article very interesting because I think, and we're not going to go through this whole article, I think this is going to echo with a lot of you. And it certainly echoes for me as well, because the discussion in this article, in the narrative, is something you've seen before. This article is saying, in short, that while there are protests that allow you to voice opinions, really it comes down to the future of rideshare, that the future is, at least in part, automated vehicles, right? We can see right here. If Uber cannot make the leap to eliminating its human drivers, it must suck as much value as it can out of its huge store of data. Further up top, we see Uber's current model isn't meant to get better. However, that's better for drivers. It's better for you. This article is saying, hey, I'm sorry, it's not meant to get better. Uber's current model, we're right here, isn't meant to get better, however. It's meant to be eventually replaced wholesale. Early on, Uber, big bet on self-driving car technology, hoping to replace drivers in mass. And this is the part about echoing, you've probably heard this before. Robot cars don't complain, don't strike. That last line, wow. And don't have families to feed. That's a pointed sentence right there. Robot cars don't complain, don't strike, and don't have families to feed. Now, it does take a step back here in the next paragraph, but the company plans went awry after an expensive and embarrassing intellectual property lawsuit over its self-driving car tech. Evidence shown at a trial suggested that Uber is several years behind the autonomous vehicle technology of Alphabet, Google's parent company. And again, we can see here, a few weeks after Uber settled the lawsuit, and Uber self-driving car struck and killed a pedestrian in Arizona. You may be familiar with that incident. The company's experimental cars are back on the streets after a hiatus, but the testing has been significantly downsized. And there's been a debate in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania markets, my hometown, and the hub, the home of Uber's Advanced Technology Center, which is their home base for this autonomous technology. There's been a discussion if those cars will be let back on the streets of Pittsburgh, and when and with what restrictions. But moreover, we're not here to talk about autonomous vehicles at large. We're here to talk about this strike that you're seeing here. And this article is saying, hey, Uber's plan all along has been sorry to replace you with robot cars. Your thoughts? Let's go here to the comment section. Vu, thanks for being here. Vu says, hi, Mike. Zachary comments, the automation will only be semi-automation. The Rideshare Hub, hey, thanks for being here, says, what's up, bro? Thanks for being here, the Rideshare Hub. Jim, thanks for being here. Jim says, Uber drivers need money, so the strike did not work here in Boston. Here's some great feedback from a driver in Boston. Jim, thanks for commenting. 100 plus drivers were in the airport lot all day during the strike. That gives me, I want to show you guys something. I want to show you what the Uber lot, the airport waiting lot, did here in San Diego. So let's take a look. I have a few screenshots of just that. I'm going to see if I can find you guys an early. Here we go. Here's the first screenshot that I noticed. At 8:29 a.m., the morning of the strike, this is what I saw. Take a look. This is 8:29. This is on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, during the strike. There was a strike here in San Diego. So this is directly at the airport. This is the waiting queue for Uber at San Diego International Airport. We can see 36 to 40 UberX drivers, 6 to 10 Uber Black drivers, 1 to 5 Black SUV drivers, and it continues on. Keep in mind, again, this is the day of, as the strike is going on. Remember, it would have been from midnight that night. This is at 8:30 in the morning, and I'm going to show you a few screenshots of the rest of the day here. Let's pull up some other ones. You know what? Let's see what Lyft was doing at that same time. Remember, this is a rideshare strike as a whole. This wasn't just Uber. If you recall the strike last month in Los Angeles, it was in front of a Uber Greenlight Center. This time, really the narrative for drivers was rideshare platforms as a whole. It was a 24-hour apps off every platform. This is what Lyft was showing at the same time, Wednesday morning, 8:29 a.m. It's the same amount of drivers. It's 35 drivers. So we have about 35 drivers on UberX. We had about 35 drivers on Lyft. I'm just showing you for comparison. Compare this with your airport queue. Would this seem low? Would this seem high? If you're familiar with major airports, is this low or high? Was this even affected by the strike? So let's go back to your comments here, and then we're going to move over to another article because this next one is really going to pique your interest, the next narrative in this article. So let's go to you here in the comments section. Lisa says, Mike, what is the usual number at the airport? You know, honestly, Lisa, I have not checked the airport queue enough. I was actually thinking that very same question. That's why I want your feedback in your respective markets. Do you think that's low? And I've been checking since to try to get that barometer. That's a great question. Sleeping Elephant, thanks for being here. San Francisco SFO Airport was surging many parts of the day. That's an interesting point. I'm going to pull up our next article here in a second. I want you to see is I was checking for pay incentives. I really didn't see any across any platform. Further commenting on the autonomous cars, Lisa says, autonomous cars are not here now. There's plenty of rural area where I live that I doubt there'll still be autonomous cars. For now, we need fair rates. I'll tell you guys, being from Pittsburgh and being in Pittsburgh when the autonomous vehicles, originally I believe Uber was using Ford Focus, if I remember correctly, with their autonomous technology, and then moved to their more familiar Volvo XC90 with the incorporated LiDAR technology for the autonomous driving. I actually rode in one of those Volvo XC90s for an autonomous ride. So I actually got to experience a autonomous Uber ride in the early years of this research in Pittsburgh. We actually have a video here on the channel if you're interested to see more of that. But again, like a lot of you say here in the comments, and a lot of the narrative around autonomous cars, it's not quite there yet. Here's our next article. What do you think about this? The Uber driver strike isn't about hindering Uber. It's about stealing the narrative. Drivers went on strike Wednesday, 2 days before Uber's much anticipated initial public offering IPO. What's with the timing? Sleeping Elephant says Uber is repressing surge and saying no cars available more often now. That could certainly be evidence that the strike had some direct impact. Again, we're not going to go through all of this. This article by The Verge, you can certainly look it up yourself. Again, the title is listed right there. But in short, we can see organization here. But in short, again, it's about controlling the narrative for the rideshare industry. Like we mentioned, if you guys haven't seen the video that I did last month with my commentary on the effectiveness of last month's strike, make sure to check that out. But one of the points I mentioned is just this. It's controlling the narrative. It's while Uber is trying to funnel as much positive, successful energy into that initial public offering to get investors and the public at large excited for their announcement that they're going live as a public company. On the other hand, the cornerstone of their business model is you as a driver are making noise and voicing concerns that, hey, this is all going on, but this is what's really going on. Let me know if you agree with that. Sleeping Elephant says, yes, truth. Sleeping Elephant also comments, Dara, referring to Dara Khosrowshahi, the current Uber CEO, does not make as much money compared to other investors. And something interesting, if you guys don't know, like I mentioned, Uber went live today as a public company. Let's actually pull up that stock price again. Here's the current stock price. And you can see here, very interesting behavior here. And this is right here, you can see the one-day, obviously, the one-day behavior of the stock price. Interesting fact here that you may not know is during the opening bell ceremony, right? Typically when a company is either featured on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, or in this case, they're announcing an initial public offering, investors, other important stakeholders in the company are on the floor and they ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Former CEO of Uber, Travis Kalanick, was reportedly snubbed by Dara Khosrowshahi. And it was reported that Kalanick actually wanted to be at this opening bell ceremony. And again, it was reported that Khosrowshahi markedly said no. I believe he stated that it was really meant for long-term employees of the company, and there's some other verbiage in there, but Travis Kalanick got the door slammed on attending the announcement today. Going back to this Verge article, do you agree with this? Do you think that, okay, hey, we knew that we weren't necessarily going to get, you can see the asks right here. We actually did a live stream going to a deep dive on the driver's Bill of Rights. Make sure to watch that live stream if you really want to see a deep dive on this Bill of Rights. But drivers, perhaps, I'm asking you, do you think it was more so about voicing concerns as a whole versus trying to actually get the 10% commission cap, as we can see here, versus actually trying to get the $27.86? I feel like it was. I feel like drivers knew that just because of this strike, you're not suddenly going to get a 10% commission cap on their Uber earnings or a $27 plus per hour pay rate, and that is before expenses, right? I think it was more so about controlling that narrative. Let me know if you agree. Lisa says, it was a start in voicing concerns. My friends were rooting for me. Sleeping Elephant with some comments on the demands in the Bill of Rights, stating that those demands are overshooting. And I would agree to a point that some of these asks are a little much. And again, watch that last live stream to see a complete breakdown. Sleeping Elephant also says Uber and Lyft stock is a short seller's dream. Emmett Silverhammer, thanks for being here, says, every day my strike continues. I feel less and less of an urge to drive or deliver again. Let me ask you guys a question. Let me come back here to you. Do you agree with that statement at large? You know what? I'm gonna ask you a tough question here. I'm gonna ask you a very tough question. Do you think that the prime of rideshare is dead? Do you think the prime of rideshare is dead? Or is this simply a challenge point in the industry? One that is bringing drivers out in mass, in voice, to voice their concerns of a changing industry that will be improved, that will get better, whether it be pay, rights, benefits, what have you? Or do you think rideshare is past its prime? We won't say dead, but do you think rideshare is past the golden years? Let me know in the live chat or if you're watching this in the rebroadcast. And hey, I do want you to make sure to answer that question, but also if you haven't done so already, guys, can you please consider leaving a like on this video? Just takes a second and it shows me that you get value in the content in this live stream, in the content on the channel. It gets more people in here, more people on your Driver Mike team, and of course, since we're here on YouTube, it boosts us in YouTube's almighty algorithm. If you haven't done so, consider leaving a like and consider dropping a super chat as well. We got an animation at the green level as well. Let's move on. Let's take a look at another article. And guys, these titles, these are really interesting, that I was surprised how much polarity I found how much polarity I found in these articles. And I really thought more of these were going to say this was a waste of time, that nothing really came from this strike. I am surprised. You may be surprised too. So let me show you the next one, which is markedly on a certain side. Look at this one. And while you're doing that, I want to catch up with you in the comments here. Sleeping Elephant says, golden era is over. I drive XL. Alex says, hello. Alex, thanks for being here. Drove International dropped a like. I appreciate that. That really does help the channel in the stream when you guys leave a like. Rideshare 2K says yes. Lisa says, I think it's a challenge point. If all drivers stopped now and no new drivers joined, Uber and Lyft would suffer immensely. Well, I agree with that. Yes, if all the drivers, or the majority, we don't even need all of them. If all the drivers stopped and no new drivers were added, absolutely. It almost stands to reason. Uh-oh. There we go. There we go, guys. Sleeping Elephant with a $2 super chat donation. Thank you, Sleeping Elephant. I always catch it live now for you guys. We're fast on the trigger here to show you live. Sleeping Elephant just took control of the entire studio with the $2 super chat, much appreciated. And if you guys want to drop a super chat, you can take control of the studio as well. Lisa says, if all drivers organized. I'll be frank with you guys, organizing millions of drivers, I'm imagining millions, right? I'm sure nationwide driver numbers. Organizing has always been the Achilles heel in these movements. But as I said in our first commentary on the protest last month, this continues to happen. So this is continually in the ear of these rideshare companies and the media. So the attention is not going away. It's saying, hey, we're still here. We're still here, we're still unhappy, and we still are upset, right? Nothing's changed since last month. And perhaps, I don't know the numbers, but perhaps the momentum and more drivers join these initiatives, that noise gets louder and louder, puts more and more pressure on these companies. But if you haven't done so already, let me know, do you think rideshare is past its golden age? Moving on, why the Uber strike was a triumph. This article from Slate, and we can see here rideshare platforms are designed to atomize workforces. It took drivers years to finally challenge Uber together. That's very interesting. That verbiage is saying that challenging these platforms together, it sounds like the majority. Now, I'll tell you, in my opinion, it's not the majority, right? We saw the queues, the airport queues during the protest, and we can show you some more numbers as well. It really didn't change throughout the day, you know. And that's the thing, and we even saw it here in the live chat. We've had at least one driver say that I didn't participate, I need money. And there's no fault, guys. If you say you drove, if you participated in the strike and protest, either way is fine. We're not here to pick a side. I'm here to talk about this issue with you. So if you are for the protest or if you're against it, certainly leave your thoughts in the comments down below, or if you're in the live chat, let us know. We're here to have that discussion. So let's take a look at this article. Oh, hey guys, there's the first sentence. Did the Uber strike work? There you go. Now this is a very comprehensive article. Again, we won't go into this. But in general, for this article, we can see right here, LA Rideshare Drivers United, there we go. The 3 worker organizations I have studied, this is from the author, which are responsible for the largest protests in the US. Again, Rideshare Drivers United, the New York Taxi Workers Alliance, and Gig Workers Rising. Engaged in years of independent on-the-ground organizing with almost no funding but a lot of energy. They systematically eschewed the notion that in the digital economy, workers' rights could only be achieved by holding hands with capital. They did what successful labor organizers have always done and built solidarity through one-on-one conversations, grassroots campaigns, raising worker awareness around the possibilities of acting together. That's grassroots, is being on the ground and just simply talking to drivers. If you think about it, if a driver has never reached out across a social platform, has never looked into YouTube videos, they've never gone onto driver forums, they've never read comment threads, which also usually voice some frustrations for rideshare apps. All they know is, hey, I'm getting kind of frustrated with this rideshare thing. And then if they're approached by one of these organizations, they feel like, wow, you are vocalizing everything that I've been feeling. I just didn't know that you guys were there. So let me give some feedback. And again, I want you to leave some feedback. Do you think this strike was successful? Sleeping Elephant says passengers have been tipping more lately. They feel bad for us. I don't know about that. A lot goes into that. Your rider's behavior. Who knows? Jim says it was in the media. That was good. The recent bonus was nice. I'm not sure if you're referring to the per ride bonus. If you qualified for a certain amount of rides on the Uber platform in past years, you qualify for a cash bonus, which could also be used for this Uber IPO to purchase stock. Should you even purchase Uber stock? Should you purchase this stock? That's another question. So here are my thoughts, just to kind of do a high level here. I want to hear your thoughts first. Let me give you a high level. I do think that this protest and strike was more successful in part than last month. And I'm actually going to reset the Phillips Hue, which are back up for grabs. And I say that because I feel like there was simply more traction and more organization. That has been the, again, Achilles heel. The biggest challenge for anyone in the rideshare space is organizing. I feel like this was much better organized. Again, kudos to Drivers United and the other organizations listed here. And again, if you are interested in more information about Rideshare Drivers United, you can check out their website, drivers-united.org. So I do think that there was success in terms of this, I'm thinking, reached more people, that it reached more people and more drivers. So again, one more time, let me know in the comments or the live chat, do you think that, firstly, is rideshare past the golden days or the peak of attractiveness of driving rideshare? And second, were you aware of this second strike? Did you participate? Did you at least turn your app off? And lastly, do you think it was a win for drivers? And if you've answered those questions, where do we go from here? Let's finish on that question, but let me show you. You know what? Let's show you some more screenshots. Let's do that. Let me show you what the app was doing. We showed you 8:29. Let's grab another time for you. Here we go. Here we go. So now I'm going to show you an example of right in the afternoon. Okay. This was again on Wednesday. This was during the protest, the apps off protest. Quest, thanks for being here. Says, yes, it has for me. Now, Renegade says media lies constantly. Interesting. Quest says that he turned his app off for 3 days. The Beacon, thanks for being here. Beacon says, Mike, I didn't turn on Lyft this past Wednesday and Thursday. A lot of comments coming in here, guys. So let me show you something. We looked at 8:29 a.m. Let me show you another time of day here. Now you're looking at 3:21 p.m. Same day. This was on Wednesday. This was during the strike here in San Diego. Again, this is a screenshot of the Uber driver app. In the San Diego International Airport Uber rideshare waiting lot. Now we see 41 to 45 Uber X drivers, 11 to 15 Uber Black, the same 11 to 15 for Uber Black SUV and more. The fact remains there were still a good amount of drivers in the queue here for right in the middle of the afternoon. Again, I have not checked the airport queue enough to say if this is normal or not. I'm going to guess that this is decent. I don't know if it's a touch lower. If I had to guess, perhaps, maybe a touch lower, but it seems pretty decent from the times that I do check the airport queue. So it seems like there wasn't too much of an immediate impact in the day-to-day operations of Uber. And why is that? Well, think about it. You can only reach, and I'm sure these organizations only reached a certain pie, a segment of drivers. So there's a certain segment of drivers who were never reached. They just didn't know about this whole protest thing. They're just driving, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. So you can't reach everybody. Now, they probably saw the protest happening, however. I think the protesters did a great job in peacefully protesting at LAX, Los Angeles International. They were situated in a departures area, somewhere where rideshare drivers are coming through. Again, in the departures, and I'm not sure if they're in arrivals. I know they're in the departure level of LAX, and they're visible. They had signs. They were voicing their opinion without being too, I guess, rambunctious, and I think that was done pretty well. It was done pretty well, done in a professional manner, which is exactly what you want. So again, even if drivers didn't know about this protest, it goes back to that other article that we looked at. It controls the narrative, however. Now, there's more aware. Now some of these drivers that had no idea say, wow, what is that? What is going on? And you're going to connect with drivers who are upset. You're going to connect with that driver who has been upset that just didn't know something like this was out there. Here's what Lyft was doing at the same time. About the same. We can see 41 drivers again in the middle of the afternoon, 3:21 p.m. again Wednesday during the strike. Now, some criticisms of the strike. M. Silverhammer says, let's be totally honest, why would Uber make changes based upon the wimpy strike with so many drivers who continue to drive? Uber realizes that they can control drivers who will still drive. And Moreover, this is interesting commentary and criticism because I think there's some truth to that. I think there's some truth that you're not going to have everybody on the team. You're not going to have everybody on the team that says, I'm all aboard, give me a sign, I will join the strike line, I'm not going to drive. Because again, I do not blame you if you are driving because you need the money. Or maybe you just got started and you're excited to get going. You don't really have any skin in the game. You don't really have anything against Uber. You just signed up. So why would you expect that driver to say, to side with the striking team per se, right? So there's a lot of camps. And we can't just say, well, everyone should be striking. Very interesting. And keep in mind, everyone has different earnings thresholds. So while one driver may be extremely unhappy with the earnings potential, another driver may think it's fair. And who's to say who's right? Now, certainly there comes a point where we have to question pay levels, like back in 2015 when it was 30 cents a mile to you as a driver in Detroit, Michigan. So there certainly is a threshold there, but you can imagine if you're a new driver, maybe you have some great pay incentives. That's a challenge. I want to show you one more article. And this one along the same vein here about if this strike was successful or not. This time from Mashable, just because you got an Uber doesn't mean the strike was a bust. Again, it seems like a pro-strike article. This is very interesting that major outlets like Mashable and The Verge are basically saying like, hey, yes, I'm kind of on the side of the Uber drivers, or at least writing that, hey, the Uber drivers are making progress. And this we can see pictures from international protests. If you're watching from an international market, welcome to the live stream or the rebroadcast. So this wasn't just a domestic issue. If this is reaching drivers internationally, this is very interesting to see. And we see here even commentary from Bernie Sanders making a statement about Uber and Lyft drivers struggling. So it looks like a lot of different players in this space. So again, guys, one last time, let me know in the live chat, do you think this was successful? Do you think this was a win for drivers? And where do we go from here? Let's finish on that point. Where do we go from here? Let's look at you guys here in the comment section. M. Silverhammer says, you have to ask the question, how low will the rates have to go? Continuing on talking about the policies before drivers stop driving. What changes are eventually going to have to happen where drivers finally say, I am done? And for me, I stopped driving in 2017, I believe the rate cut was, in Pittsburgh when rates went to 90 cents per mile. When I first started in late 2015, it was $1.20 per mile with a lot of surge every single night. I'm talking weekdays and weekends and the evenings. Doesn't matter the day, there was a lot of surge. We're talking 2, 3x plus. It was a lot of great potential for earnings. And 2016 was a great year, kind of more of the same. And then that rate cut in January 2017 to 90 cents from 120. And all of a sudden, okay, now surge is less and less perhaps. There's maybe more drivers. Passengers are looking at other options now. 90 cents doesn't seem too attractive. So where is that threshold where you stop driving? In fact, let me know. Let me know in the comments or the live chat here. What's your threshold or what's your ideal? Let's go back to you guys here. Lisa, continue organizing. Continue striking. Jim says in Boston, they set up alternative transportation options in lieu of the strike. They didn't need it because like I said before, there were actually 100 plus in the driver queue all day during the strike. And I'm really curious how the queues were affected, the airport queues were affected in other markets. We see here Boston 100 plus that were available in the queue. The Beacon calls for more strikes, calling for strikes on holidays, Fridays, Saturdays would be the next step. And I've heard that message before. Why would you guys strike on Wednesday? Why would you have the 24-hour apps off on Wednesday? Do it on Friday. Do it on Saturday. Do it on the holidays. That's where you really hit them. And I can't say I really disagree with that. The challenge is convincing drivers to do so on arguably, well, not even arguably, it's really fact, the highest earning days of the week and the year. Holidays. Can you imagine on New Year's Eve? Can you imagine on Halloween? The two biggest earning nights for rideshare. That could be a challenge. So where do we go from here? Again, Lisa said more protests. I think that for rideshare to really be back where it was years ago as a lucrative opportunity, that something has to give. There has to be benefits to the drivers in some way, lowering expenses, or of course increasing revenue. I think that the $1.20 back in Pittsburgh in 2015 was fair. I think now, adjusting for the cost of fuel and inflation, what have you, that $1.50 would be fantastic, and I would drive standard fare on $1.50. But that's just not the case. So controlling the narrative, especially now that Uber is a public company, controlling the narrative, I think, is big. So we'll see where all this is going to go. Do we have another one next month? So keep your eyes, again, on organizations like Rideshare Drivers United again. Make sure to follow here. If you haven't done so already, consider subscribing. Be in the know. Just educate yourself. Follow different platforms. Really interested. Do we have another one next month? Is this going to be an every month kind of thing? And now that Uber is a public company, should we watch this? Should we watch this to see how Uber is affected? Because if you guys don't know, this is what Lyft has been doing since going live. Right there. March 29th, a Friday. Lyft debuting on NASDAQ at $78. And look where the trends have gone. Lyft has not received a lot of traction in their stock offering. As you can see here, going down to $51.09. So should we be watching this number? That's where I'm going to leave it. We'll have to see where this goes. We'll have to see where the protests and the narrative go. We'll have to see where the app goes. Are there going to be changes in the app subtly? Remember the 180 days of change. Remember that. The 180 days of change. Benefits to you as a driver. So let me know your thoughts in the live chat, or if you're watching this in the rebroadcast, down in the comments. And before you go, guys, if you haven't done so already, make sure to do one thing. Please consider leaving a like on this live stream. It really helps out the channel. It takes 1 second, and it shows me that you get value in this live stream. The content here on the channel gets more people in here, more people on the Your Driver Mike team, and of course, since we're here on YouTube, it boosts us in YouTube's almighty algorithm. If you haven't done so already, consider leaving a like. One more time, back to you guys. Quest, it says, yes, we need to watch the stocks and the financial statements that they need to provide to investors. That's exactly right. Now that Uber, by the way, guys, Uber and Lyft are public companies, now we do have access, if you're an investor, to financials, to actual numbers, financial statements from these companies. They must give those out to investors now. Really interesting. And there's actually statements in that investor packet that talk about trajectory of the company, concerns for growth or loss in the coming quarters. This will be very interesting to see. Lisa says, plenty of riders are supportive, at least to me. Jose is also in here. Thanks for being here, Jose. Mark, thanks for being here at the end. Mark says, stock prices will just reflect their lack of earnings. They will need to increase their earnings before the stock price will increase. And hey guys, there's certainly a loss of earnings. Uber reporting a $1.8 billion loss in 2018. I believe they're losing $800 million a quarter, if I'm remembering correctly. Don't quote me on that. But there is a massive hundreds of millions being lost every quarter here. But keep in mind, these companies are relatively new. They've been working as private companies, getting their own venture capitalism, capitalist funding, what have you. So we'll see where these companies go. So again, guys, I appreciate you being here. On your way out, consider leaving a like on this video. I'll answer your questions down below in the comments section. And of course, I will see you in the next one.